It's been a cloud of Michael Vick all offseason, but truth be told, a lot more to the NFC South. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz alongside NFL.com's Pat Kirwan with you, giving you a quick overview of the division. But by now, you know the situation with Michael Vick. You know the plea agreement. You've heard it. You've seen it. We'll get to that in a sec. I know you're not supposed to do that in journalism, bury the lead, but there is a much better story to be told in the NFC South. Get to that in a sec as well. But the last 5 years, someone from the NFC South has gone on to the NFC Championship game. 2 Super Bowl teams in that era, that time period as well. Last year, the one going to the NFC Championship game, the New Orleans Saints, the best story in all of football with post-Hurricane Katrina. Can they get back and maybe even further to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, they can. It's an unusual division now, folks. 4 years in a row, 4 different teams won the division. And the year before they won it, they were in last place. So spooky things happen here. The Tampa Bay Bucs are trying to play that story now, but the Saints have the quarterback. They have Drew Brees. Keep these 2 numbers in mind, 7-0. In the division last year, Brees throws 7 touchdown passes, no interceptions. And he also completed 70% of his passes. I look at these defenses and say, can they stop Brees? Too many weapons. And I look, as I went around the NFC South this summer, I went to every place, you look for the matchup player. Which guy in this team can match up with Reggie Bush? Handle him as a wide receiver. Handle the reverse. Handle the things he does. And I don't think they all have an answer to the Reggie Bush and the matchup things that Sean Payton will do with him.
And Reggie Bush, Deuce McAllister combined for 18 touchdowns, so a tremendous combination as well. All right, those 2 combined, though, had nothing running the football as a total as what the Falcons did. They led the NFL in running, and it was by a wide margin. A lot of that, though, because Michael Vick became the first quarterback to run for over 1,000 yards. Obviously, he won't be there. We'll get to that in a sec. But, Pat, X's and O's wise, Bobby Petrino's first season, Joey Harrington leading the way. Where do you see on the field X's and O's wise?
You know, ironically, Harrington's skill sets fit more with what Petrino's trying to do. And I'm not suggesting that Harrington's as good as Vick. But this is a coach that wants to run the I running game, traditional offense, and deep vertical passing attack. And he wants the ball thrown on time. Those are not things that Michael Vick did. Now, here's an interesting number. Both Harrington and Michael Vick threw the exact same number of passes last year in the NFL, 388. Harrington completed more than Michael Vick. So there's a sentiment down there that Harrington could do this. I was at practice for a while. I'm not so sure. Why? I don't like the protection. I think the people that are going to blitz him, I was there for 2 blitz periods, and I was really kind of taken back by the offensive line's ability to protect. Harrington is a guy traditionally that's had struggles against pressure. You blitz people up inside in his face, he throws the ball away, he gets sacked. I think they're going to have to fix that problem before they go any further.
He certainly had problems with that in Detroit before moving on to Miami. All right, having said all that, obviously a lot to deal with for the team. Michael Vick, a lot of friends on the roster. It was certainly a polarized issue in the city, and one that will continue throughout the season with Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, and all that stuff. Is there a barometer or a way to tell how this will affect the team?
You know, I've talked to a lot of the players off the record. Now, Joe Horn has been on the record, and he's sticking by Michael Vick, his friend. But Joe Horn wasn't even in Atlanta last year. So thank you, Joe. I've talked to veterans that have known this guy for a while, and you know what they said? Look, we're in the middle of preseason. We're trying to get ready to get a team that's not going to get beat up on the football field. Our thoughts are with Michael, but we have to move on. And that's how NFL people, players, coaches always think. They're moving on. Sorry, Mike, but we have to get ready for the football season. I don't think it's going to be a distraction. And I think as the media tries, Harrington has to play well. And if he doesn't, then the media is going to force the players to start thinking about life with Mike.
All right, you talked about the players moving on. Let us move on in the NFC South. Let's go to the Panthers. A lot of talent last season. Couldn't run the football. At times, they couldn't stop anything defensively. Last 10 games, not very good. They were 4-6 the last 10 games. They gave up a lot of points in certain points, and then had a couple of good defensive games in there as well, which kind of balanced things out. But what do you take away from the Panthers this year?
You know, the Panthers, to me, are the NFC's version of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Both teams had high expectations last year, and they didn't meet them, so now people are frustrated with them. When I got done with Carolina, here's what I saw, a team with 2 very good running backs. With David Carr on the roster, finally a backup quarterback that can push Jake Delhomme a little bit. He looks terrific in a backup role. He's very relaxed. All the pressure of Houston's gone. They got pretty good offensive linemen. They got Travell Wharton back at left tackle. I don't like their tight end situation. I do love their wide receiver stuff. Stevie Smith took it on his shoulders when Mike Minter, I was there the day Minter retired. Steve turned to me and said, I got to take over this team. I got to be the emotional leader. I liked that a lot. I think the secondary's got big names in it, and they haven't produced. So the secondary, to me, is what has to come through for Carolina. But don't be surprised that this team that swept the Saints last year. And I know one of those games was at the end of the year when the Saints pulled the starters, but they beat the Saints twice. They're going into this season thinking, we're going to win the division. I think they got a chance.
A team that didn't beat the Saints last year, and that's the Buccaneers. They didn't beat very many teams, period. They only had 4 wins. Couldn't run the football at all. Had a real tough time in Cadillac Williams' second season. Jeff Garcia, he's now the quarterback, so maybe teams can't put 8 or 9 in the box. Do you see the Bucs as a much better offensive team?
Man, I sat down with Gruden and said, tell me what Garcia is bringing to your offense. His eyes lit up. He had a big smile on his face. He said, Pat, I can do things I never thought we could do here. We got a shotgun package, specifically because Garcia is on the football team now. And he's seeing the field and getting the ball to different players. Maurice Stovall, a non-entity last year, has become a go-to guy for Garcia. Garcia did the same thing in Philly. He found receivers that no one was thinking were any good and made them good players. The running game will start to happen for them. I believe, in talking to Cadillac, I think Cadillac is as healthy as he's been in a while. He finally started taking care of his body. He got beat up a little bit in college and went right into pro football, took a heavy pounding. He looks fresh to me. They're kind of counting on Luke Pettigoat now to do things. Here's what they think Luke gives them. Luke gives them a chance to take their athletic tight ends and move them outside. Before, they would never leave their tackles alone because they weren't good enough. They think Luke can give them more opportunities to spread this set around and do different things. Here's what I hope John does. I hope John Gruden turns this thing over to Garcia. Don't complicate it. Let Jeff Garcia go to the line and make some calls. They'll move the football.
You talked about Luke Pettigoat, the offseason acquisition coming over from the Giants now to help back up or protect Jeff Garcia. All right, folks, there you have it. But for more in-depth coverage of each team in the NFC South, or the conference as a whole, be sure to read Clark Judge and Pete Prisco here on CBSSports.com. And, of course, our man, Pat Kirwan, on NFL.com. For Pat, I'm Jason Horowitz. And we will have video previews of each and every game this season only here on CBSSports.com. We'll see you then. Take care.